Iowa State, Cincinnati, not a game a lot of people had circled as a marquee matchup before the season, but it could have major Big 12 championship implications. We're talking about it today on a Locked On Bearcats, Locked On Cyclones crossover.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome in, Cyclone fans, Bearcat fans alike. We've got a big game to talk about this weekend. Jeff Carr with me today of Locked On Bearcats to help me break it down. We're going to talk about the strengths of both teams, the weaknesses of both teams, and obviously give our predictions. I'm guessing at some point we are going to stray off the beaten path and just talk some ball, but that is the general outline for today. I can't wait to dive into it. But first, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. Jeff, thank you so much for making the time to break down this game because, like I said, I don't think before the season a lot of people had this as like a huge matchup, but Cincinnati's big win over Kansas last weekend was, shocking to say the least. So what is going on over in Cincinnati with these Bearcats?
Yeah, it was definitely big, Nick. I mean, this was a defining game a little bit. At least it starts to give us something about Scott Satterfield and something about Brendan Sorsby. Because going into that game, I mean, they just beat Northwestern State 70-0. I'm pretty sure you, me, and 9 other guys could score on Northwestern State. So I don't really worry too much about that game and draw too much from it. So Kansas was sort of one of those moments where it was like, show us who you are. And I think that we know that the offense can do what it needs to do. And then we'll get into the defense here in a little bit when we talk about weaknesses. But I know for a fact that this offense can be as balanced as it needs to be in any given situation.
Yeah, and so I was looking through Cincinnati's schedule here, and a lot of people watched the Nebraska game, right? Because I believe it was at Arrowhead. It was this huge deal, and Cincinnati comes up just short. I wonder, obviously, a lot of people are looking at non-conference to compare Big 12 to Big 10, SEC, ACC. I feel like the Big 12 landed in a good spot in comparison to the other conferences, but this one stood out to me. Is Cincinnati just kind of getting up to speed? Was that maybe a little bit of an early bump in the road? Because the 70-0 does stand out as an Iowa State fan. I'm like, okay, 70 points, a lot of points. You beat Kansas, a team that I thought was actually relatively solid, a team that shocked me and I thought was going to be in the Big 12 title race. I don't know so much anymore. But it could be that Cincinnati is just like figuring it out around week 5, week 6.
They're very smartly schemed on offense. And I think that was just what they were trying to figure out. Because coming into this year, I mean, it's 2 straight years ever since Luke Fickell left, and they haven't made a bowl. And there's a lot of folks that are like, all right, I don't even know that a bowl is just the goal here. Like, we want to see them do more. We want to see them win more than 6 games, let alone just make a bowl to feel better about Scott Satterfield. So then whenever they sort of tripped up there against Nebraska, where it was like, you make a couple more plays, you probably win that game, and everybody is noticing UC a lot earlier. Mm-hmm. Then you go back into obscurity and you're playing Bowling Green and Northwestern State. Nobody cares about how you do against those teams because you're supposed to beat them. So then you get into Big 12 play, and what is it? And I liked how they answered the bell at least on offense there, because I said the one thing you really can't do is just let Jalen Daniels cook. And my goodness, he cooked. He only had like 19 completions and he had like 420 yards. Like, it was an insane day for him. Everything deep was working. Everything short was working. Everything was working. And yet they had an answer every single time. And then, of course, the most impressive part about the game was with 1:45 left, Brendan Sorsby leads them down the field. They had the ball. I believe they started that drive from the 25-yard line. They drive all the way down, get the go-ahead touchdown with under 30 seconds left. And you're just like, that's what I needed to see from this team to feel better about this game. I don't know that I agree with the favored line that FanDuel has given the Bearcats in this game, although I'm happy to see the respect that they're earning. And as much as a sold-out Nippert Stadium is going to be awesome, they're going up against Rocco Becht, and for my money, I think Rocco Becht is better than Jalen Daniels.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking strengths here, That is definitely Iowa State's strength. Rocco Becht is kind of the guy, and then I feel like it's the offense in general. And you mentioned how well Jalen Daniels played. I wonder if this is going to be kind of like the second breakout game for Chase Sowell. We saw him perform really well against Arizona, kind of finally breaking through that, what Matt Campbell had been calling like an injury situation and just not a ton of utilization, but really got open deep and almost stole the spotlight from Brett Eskelson, who had been that deep option for Iowa State. So now I wonder if Rocco Becht is going to have a night like that where he's got, Benjamin Bramer up the seam once or twice, a Chase Sowell deep shot here or there, Brett Eskelson, maybe it's a trick play like it was against Arizona. But either way, I think that the deep shot will really open up here. And who knows, maybe Rocco Becht flings himself into the Heisman talk is all. The problem right now is his numbers. But I wonder if this is going to be one of those over games that's just a lock, because I don't know what the line is right now. Both teams' strength is the offense. It seems like we're doing an offense-defense segment here, but we're literally just talking strengths.
Right, and you said it, and I was thinking it. Like I saw just a moment ago here before we hit record here on this Tuesday night, the over-under was set at 53.5, and I thought, I think it's a very similar total to where it was for the Kansas game. I thought it'd be the under at Kansas. I thought there would be a lot more messy offense in that game, and instead it was, just you boot up NCAA 25 and you go. I kind of feel like that's probably what we're looking at here. So I think I'm with you. I think that's going to be the thing that we look at on FanDuel and be like, yeah, take the over in this game, because the line itself has moved. Like Iowa State was favored. Now UC's favored. I'm guessing by the time we get back to Saturday, probably Iowa State is back in the favored line. So that's going to be really hard to predict, but there's going to be a lot of scoring in this ballgame.
That's exciting. I mean, we love a high-scoring game, of course. Like, defensive battles are fun, but that's what the Cyhawk game is for early on in the season. You bring up that Iowa State is the dog in this one. Very interesting. Opened up with an Iowa State favorite. I've got a statistic for you I saw on Twitter. I did tell you this before the air, so you don't have to act too shocked, but Rocco Becht is 6-0 in games where he is a touchdown or less dog. So anything at plus 6.5 or lower, he is 6-0. I do like that stat, but there are things I'm concerned about with this Iowa State team. We'll talk about that in the second segment. I think what it comes down to offensively, I guess, because we're strength our offense for both of these teams, it's going to come down to running the ball, in my opinion. And that was what I said against Arizona, was Iowa State needs to stay on pace. Arizona was known for getting teams behind the sticks, and Iowa State's been really good about penalties for the most part this season, but there have been some times where it feels like the run game is slowly it's not causing issues per se, but it feels like our pass game is almost stronger. I just talked about this the other day, and I was shocked to see that our first down rusher pass ratio was like even. If Iowa State can get the run game going, I feel good about this. Where is the Bearcats defense at in that realm?
That's going to be interesting, because they did a good job of limiting LaShawn Williams, and that's the one part about the defense that I'm not that worried about as much, and especially if Dante Corleone plays. He did not play against Kansas. He is questionable, at least at the beginning of this week, although Scott Satterfield said in his press availability on Tuesday that he is trending in the right direction. Now, what that means still might only be like 30 or 40 snaps, but 30 or 40 snaps of the Godfather is a lot better than 0 snaps of the Godfather. And so when Dante Corleone gets in there, he's going to be putting all the pressure on the interior part of the offensive line, allowing the guys on the edge and our linebackers like Jake Golday to really get in and push the pressure from both the interior and on the edges. So I'm intrigued to see how much he plays, because I think that really will push Iowa State to be more pass heavy.
Yeah, I'm excited to see the ball fly through the air, but I wonder, they always say games are won and lost in the trenches. Speaking of losing, there are some things I think both of these teams have to worry about to avoid that terrible loss that could happen over in Cincinnati. We're going to break down what those are coming up right here after this. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details, and Mazda bring the same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Nappa leather upholstery. And with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Today's episode is also brought to you by Monarch Money. Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's 401ks, properties, or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. There's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch is built for people with busy lives. If you put off organizing your finances like I have, Monarch is for you. Monarch does the heavy lifting, and you can link all your accounts in minutes. See clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending. This thing does it all. Me personally, one of my favorite features is the ability to manage my finances with my partner. Super, super clutch. I don't have to do a ton of communication. Just refer to the app. That's how I run it. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONCollege. So we talked all about the strengths of both of these teams. I think this could be a fun one. We could see a ton of scoring, but that leads to what is the issue with both of these teams? Is it the defense especially? We talked about really only offense. So we've kind of found ourselves in a pivot situation here. I'm going to talk about Iowa State because there was breaking news relatively yesterday from Matt Campbell. Jontez Williams out for the year. Last week, it was Jeremiah Cooper with a knee ligament was what was kind of categorized, I guess. And then this week, Jontez Williams with the ACL. Now, look, we're doing a crossover. I'm not here to yell at you about how I feel about Iowa State players being in the game up 20 points with 3 minutes left, okay? That's not your fault. But I do think it's going to have an impact on Iowa State's secondary. So my main concern for this one is Iowa State's pass defense. Now, you're going to have linebackers that are going to play relatively well, but we've seen all season that Iowa State doesn't exactly have the pass rush. That's not their strength. If they can hold in the secondary, that's fine. But now with two main guys out, I worry about that. Where do you think Cincinnati can attack Iowa State the best?
It's definitely going to be, they're going to provide a balanced attack, and Scott Satterfield really prefers it that way. Like, even if one area of the offense is just humming, he tries to use that to open up the other part of the game. And honestly, we saw that work really well against Kansas, because as much as Brendan Sorsby had a good game, the rushing attack was working too. Like, Evan Pryor only had 9 carries, but he got 60 yards on the day. And then Tawi Walker had a number of key carries, to the point that everybody, him and then even Brendan Sorsby included, the 3 guys that carried the ball, all averaged at least 4 yards per carry. So there's going to be times when the Bearcats are able to stay balanced, but they're going to use the middle of the field. That's something that Nebraska took away from them very successfully, but Kansas did not. And that opened up everything else, because they have good receivers, but they're all very new to the system because they just got here via transfer. Cyrus Allen had a breakout game against Kansas with 11 catches and a couple of touchdowns and over the century mark in yards. But overall, it's going to be how they attack the middle of the field and how they keep their balance, even with a passing defense that they could potentially exploit.
I'll be interested to see how that middle of the field thing plays out, because I think that's where Iowa State's strength is, maybe on defense, if I had to pick one. One of the other weaknesses, and I'm only going to bring up 2 for you because I don't love bringing down the Cyclones here, but Sorsby, your leading rusher right now, 227 rush yards. I looked obviously against the 2 big games, of the 2 that I'm really looking at here. What do we got for rusher against Kansas? Relatively decent day, 52 rush yards on 13 carries. And then against Nebraska, I've got him as the leading rusher with 96 yards. I am concerned about that. We relatively shut down Fafita, but Fafita isn't a guy that's going to run all over you. Like, he will run when he has to. I equated him a lot to Rocco Becht. Like, Rocco's stat line against Arizona was, I think he had like 9 or 10 carries for negative 10 yards and 3 touchdowns. So he'll run when he has to, but it doesn't usually work out. It's not a stat line, right? So can Sorsby, I ask this so apprehensively, can Sorsby dice up Iowa State's defense, or can I focus mostly on the passing game?
It's going to be opportunistic. They do have a couple of design runs, and they have this fun thing where it's like a little bit of an RPO, but then the running back turns into the lead blocker, and then Brendan Sorsby finds the hole. And they use that a couple of times against Kansas. I'd be shocked if they don't use it at all against Iowa State. But a lot of the times they're trying to get him in rhythm passing, and then the running game just becomes a little bit of some potpourri over here or a little bit of icing on the cake over there, like things like that. It's not a focus for Brendan Sorsby specifically, but it's definitely a weapon that they like to call upon. Like, I mean, he's a guy that whenever you are limiting the passing game, he's going to open it up. That's why he ran so much against Nebraska, because heck, he only threw for 66 yards there, and he needed to affect the game somehow. So he was like, I guess I'll do it with my legs because it ain't working with the arm. But I think that'll be the interesting part of this, is that he really had a balanced game against Kansas, and I kind of see more of the same this week too.
Okay. Well, I like that to an extent. I'm not going to lie to you. I feel a little bit better, but I need you to tell me, what is Cincinnati weak at? Like, where can Iowa State exploit the Bearcats?
Well, as much as we were talking about Iowa State's pass defense, that's where the Bearcats are the weakest as well. The Bearcats employ this very intriguing defensive style of bend but don't break. But they did this thing against Kansas where they broke. So when you're a bend but don't break defense and you break, then you're just broken. So that's exactly what happened last week. And I wonder a little bit about Rocco Becht, because he's the exact same like experience level of Jalen Daniels. You could tell that there were plenty of plays where Jalen Daniels was just taking what the defense gave him. There's a lot of times where Cincinnati defensive backs just give such a cushion. It'll be 3rd and 5 and they'll give you 8 yards. I don't understand it, but it's their thing. It's whatever. Like Tyson Veit is just married to this idea that I think they ran man coverage like one time against Kansas. Most of it was zone. And so they sit back in this soft zone and they dare you to go deep. Well, then they still got beat deep with a lot of pre-snap motion and things like that Kansas put in their face as well. So it was not a great day for the defensive backs. The front seven's a little bit better, but they didn't get a lot of consistent pressure without Dante Corleone on the field last week. So I'm curious to see if they draw up some more blitzes. I was talking with our friend Chad Brendel over at Bearcat Journal on yesterday's podcast, and we noted that one of the weapons that Tyson Veit has really used in the pass rush has been linebacker Jake Golday, but he spent a lot more time in the secondary level, making sure that guys weren't really breaking open big runs from the line of scrimmage and things like that. So I don't know if that was scheme or if that was just what they saw and how that had to all play out, but he was a lot more conservative than he had been in the first 3 games with Jake Golday. So how does that all play out? Because it feels like if you give Rocco Becht time, if you're going to rush 4 and he's got plenty of time, then it doesn't matter how you cover, he's probably going to carve you up. And the way that the Bearcats really set up their defensive backs, there's such a cushion in there that like Rocco Becht's going to feel really nice and comfy.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I don't have the stats in front of me for this week. I know for last week when we were talking about Arizona, Rocco was like 13th in the country when he had time, and then bumped down to 71 or something like that under pressure. If I hate saying this because I don't want to give anybody ideas, right? I want you guys to figure it out on your own. But if Cincinnati pulls anything like Arizona, those stunts up front, they weren't a huge problem against Iowa State, the Arizona game there. But they definitely were effective when they were effective, if that makes sense. So I wonder if Cincinnati can scheme it, even if it doesn't come down to, necessarily player ratings or whatever. Like if Iowa State's line is a 95 and I'm just throwing out numbers, Cincinnati's defensive line is a 70, I still think schematically they can get to Rocco Becht, which does make me nervous when usually the offensive line is a huge strength for this team, at least so far this season. We've kind of talked about the strengths. We've kind of talked about the weaknesses to an extent. Let's wrap it all up in one big bow and put 2 numbers side by side that we call a prediction. We're going to do that coming up here right after this.
You got to head on over to FanDuel right now because this matchup this week between UC and Iowa State is all over the place. If you're looking at the point spread, Iowa State was favored. Now Cincinnati's favored. That might change 3 or 4 times between now and Saturday. But the one thing that we've already mentioned in this show, and I believe you got to go take to the bank, hit the over. 53.5 right now. I'm sure that line's going to move up. The more that we talk about this, people will be seeing this as well. I'm expecting that 53.5 to go up. So hit it right now over on FanDuel. And if you create a new account and you put $5 on that bet and you win, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. There ain't no odds that are that good anywhere, at least on a bet that you could probably actually win. So check out FanDuel today and create that no account. Take advantage of that introductory offer. Today's episode is also brought to you by Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are the places that become the extension of home that we all look for, the home away from home. Whether it's the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. I think of so many different breweries around the city of Cincinnati that use the Square app. My favorite brewery being Third Eye, of course, in Sharonville. But you've got to check out all these different businesses because without Square, they would not be where they are. Square makes it all possible. And they're a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnCollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood.
Prediction time, Jeff. Time to really get down to brass tacks here. And I'm going to make the viewers wait just a few minutes. I'm not going to give them a score right off the bat here. I want to know, what are your kind of overall thoughts on this game? Because I'm not going to give away my entire take here, but I have to say, like I said at the beginning of this, I did not expect Cincinnati to be one of those teams I was scared of going into this season. I had ASU, BYU, even TCU, obviously Iowa, teams has circled as big games. And this one is proving to be, I wouldn't even shy away from the word monumental.
I think that a lot of this just stems from, are they going to keep playing with this chip on their shoulder of nobody believes in us? Because there's a lot of Bearcats fans clamoring for, look, if Scott Satterfield don't get it done, he should be done this year. And there's a lot of folks. I was talking to some folks this past Sunday after the Bearcats win. They're like, last year that quarterback, he wasn't very good. And this year, this quarterback, he seems pretty good. I'm like, yeah, they're the same guy. It's the same guy played last year and this year. It's just he's gotten better and he's looking a lot more consistent. So I think there's a lot of growth that has happened from the offensive side of things. But the key to me that I haven't even mentioned yet is the offensive line. The Bearcats have one of the best offensive lines in football. They have allowed 1 sack all year long. I think that last week, and I forget the exact number, but I know it's like double-digit weeks since Kansas has had less than 2 sacks. And they only got 1 sack last week. That's the only sack that Cincinnati's allowed all year long. They have really protected Brendan Sorsby, but they do a good job as well of getting that push and really – pushing the defensive line back when it's time to run the ball. That's why we're seeing the success from Sorsby, from Tawee Walker, from Evan Pryor, from anybody that's carrying the football for this team. And so I think for that reason, it's hard for me to pick against the Bearcats because I love this offensive line, and it's led by 3 seniors. You've got a senior at tackle, you got a senior at center who really drives us. Gavin Gerhardt is the guy that pushes everything forward. And for me, the reason why I'm so confident in what I saw from Kansas, not being the only time that I say, all right, way to go, Bearcats.
Okay, I hate that final rebuttal, but I will say it gives me a sense of hope because for Iowa State, I think Iowa State's really good in a lot of areas. And my preview all week has kind of been the offense, I think, is absolutely there. Now there's question marks on the defense, and it's going to come down to me for the linebackers. Seems like such an easy pick if you've been listening to Locked On Cyclones all year, but I think that unit is kind of the core of this defense. You've obviously got Dominique Orange up front, who's going to stop a lot of runs. He kind of just clogs up the first 3 gaps, like all the 0, 1, 3, whatever you want to call it, ABC, he's got them all covered. It comes down to, can the linebackers flow? Can they get out to that, I don't know, what is it, 9 tech, all the way outside flow that way? Can they cover those zones, those hook and curls, whatever? We're getting a little technical here, but you understand the point. Those are the guys, with guys returning from injury, especially like Willick, Bacon, obviously, from last season, that have to play the defense extremely well. I think the secondary will be fine. I don't expect a lot of pressure from Iowa State in this game. I don't think John Heacock is going to draw that up. I'll be interested if he switches his mentality now with different guys playing at the secondary level, but I don't expect it. I think it's going to come down to the linebackers. And then the offense just has to hold their own. So going into this, I honestly thought Iowa State was probably going to win a tight one, low 20s. But I kind of think after talking with you, it might be I'll say my official prediction probably, let's go 26-31. I think that's I don't like giving up 26 points, but I could see it. And I think 31 is almost on the low end for what Iowa State can score. Obviously, I'm picking the Cyclones, just so we're clear.
Right. And I could see that working. I understand why the line is so ambivalent, so chaotic. It's because it's in Cincinnati. If this were in the Cyclones backyard, I think this would be different, at least as far as the point spread is concerned. And there's going to be something to Nippert Stadium. Nippert Stadium is going to be striped red and black this Saturday. And as long as everybody really follows along with the program, that's going to look pretty cool. And it's sold out. It's already been announced as a sellout. And so there's going to be, whatever that is, 42, I think. No, I think I'm overselling that. Sorry, getting a lot of numbers
right
mixed up
around
in my
there.
head. It's it's going to be a raucous atmosphere. So I think that they're going to be able to tap into that early and then be able to hold on to it late. I go 30-28. I think Bearcats get the win.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, just to kind of piggyback off your Nippert Stadium point there, a lot of people are, I'm my side of Twitter, quick to dismiss what Nippert Stadium is. But don't forget Danny Stutzman saying how loud Cincinnati's stadium was, saying it's one of the loudest stadiums he's ever played in at Oklahoma. Like, can't forget, right? Like, this is not friendly territory. You're like, look at how Iowa State performed at Arkansas State. Now, I'm not saying that the away team, the stadium was a huge factor in that game. It was probably more so the heat, but you're just not at home. You don't get to be in your home locker room. You don't walk out with the fire and the fireworks and the whole thunderstruck and everything. It's a different environment. It's something you have to acclimate to. And it's not quiet when you're on offense. I understand that if you're listening, you know what an away game is, but I'm just asking you to reframe and not say like, well, it's Cincinnati. It's not that big a deal. Like, this could be a problem. I don't want to overlook that. So I don't hate your prediction either. Obviously, I didn't come into this hoping to persuade you to pick the Cyclones, but I do think at the end of the day, we're in for a treat. I saw a couple people ranking this in like the top 5 games of the weekend. Nobody had that before the season. I guess I want to close with this because I'm curious. What do you think? Can Cincinnati, if they win this game, can Cincinnati make a push for the Big 12 title? Because I think Iowa State's one of the teams that's a front runner. So if you beat the front runner, wouldn't that put you in a position?
I absolutely do. We were talking about this last week that before the Kansas game, we thought, UC could start 2-0 or 0-2 very easily. And the fact that they got that win against Kansas really obviously sets up the 2-0. But at the same time, like I love their chances past this point because you face UCF. UCF is tough, but you get them here at home at UC. Then you go to Oklahoma State there, and you come home for Baylor, go to Utah, obviously a tough game, come home for Arizona, right, and come home for Arizona, home for BYU, and then at TCU to finish the year out. They don't play Texas Tech, so you missed that part because I know that they're at the top of our Big 12 power rankings, Locked On Big 12 power rankings. Right there ahead of Iowa State. I know there's probably a bit of consternation there, but all that being said, like it feels like they're set up to really go on a run. And I'm very intrigued to see how that happens. And also to your point too, about the atmosphere of Nippert, I think that a lot of folks sleep on it because it's not as widely known outside of Cincinnati, but to kind of paint the picture, like Nippert sits firmly within the center of campus. So you've got all the buildings all around it for different classrooms and different dorm rooms and different things like that. And folks can just be at the stadium. I mean, throughout the week, in between classes, people are walking through the stadium to get from class to class. Like it's such
I'm pretty sure it's really open, right? GFed slept there this week, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah. It's a very, it's very much campus. It is not like its own, like off to the side, like it's got its own yard type deal. Like this is all part of campus, and it feels like it's such the heartbeat of campus as much as it is, some big time stadium where you can go watch a football game. Like I think that it's such a special atmosphere that until you actually see it, you don't fully understand it. And then when you're in it, you're like, I gotta get this, because you're down in the middle of campus and everybody's just there yelling at you. It's a great setup. I love Nippert Stadium.
Yeah, it's going to be a great game, either win, lose, or draw. I'm excited to see what this means for both teams moving forward, but a great measuring stick for both of these teams for sure. Be sure to hit subscribe down below. Give us your score predictions. I'm curious to see where the general pop lands on this because, like I said, I didn't come into this with the same prediction I had when I left, when we just finished recording that. So shout out to every single one of you guys make it to this point in the episode. You're the best. Locked On Cyclones, Locked On Bearcats crossover. Good luck this weekend, Jeff.
Good luck to you too.